Hey, what's up guys, it's T-Bone here and welcome back to another episode of playing Legendary Game of Heroes. So we're now on day 2 of the event, the Wretched Scourge. And in today's episode, what I want to do is primarily focus on the decks that we talked about in the last episode and see if we can do some good damage against the boss. We are going to try and utilize the event cards as much as possible, but I don't have Manvils and I don't have the ultra rare cards. You can see that I actually tried to get the ultra rare card on tier 1 of both of the packs. Unfortunately, I didn't get it, and I also didn't get Manvils by tier 3. I didn't bother with tier 4. Now, I do have a guildmate that got both Manvils and the Bedeviled Vena on tier 1 of each pack, so congratulations to her. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the cards we have here. This particular event is going to feel really difficult, mainly because of the spell that it casts. So you can take a look at the guild boss here. If you go in here, take a look, go change team, and you look at the team intel, you can see it casts Fear. So Fear was already difficult to deal with before, but it's got an upgrade in this particular event. I'm not sure if it's a bug or if it's a intended behavior, but Fear used to, when you get hit by Fear, it used to wait until the end of your turn and then take down 2 of your hero's battle gauge or your skill meter. Now, as soon as you get hit, 2 of them will disappear right away before the end of your turn. So it really will screw up with your timing and your attack and everything. It's just really difficult. And so you have to bring in a card to dispel it. This is one of those bosses that you can't afford to just not bring in a card to dispel Fear. And so the choices you have, I would say the first thing to do is to look for a Warden. Wardens are much better for dispelling because you can see that they have a much higher level of dispel. Earlier, if you paid attention, the guild boss casts Fear at level 6, whereas Bone Collector, for example, as a Warden, will counter it at level 9. So with a 3 level difference, you're looking at about 100% guarantee that it always dispel. But it may not always be useful for you because in my case, I don't want to use a Warden that Light Warden in here, but I don't have any other choice. I don't have any other Wardens, Fire Wardens. So instead, I'm going to bring in Cecilia. Cecilia creates power gems for me, and she's a regular card, so her dispel rate is only at level 6. When it's the same level, for 6 versus 6, you're looking at a 60% dispel. So that means 40% of the, like 4 out of 6 times it's not going to happen. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'll be able to take out the boss before then. And so let's talk about this deck here. So I have Vena as the leader here for Corrupt. And Jarvis is an older card. You can get him at 100 Dust Store. He's also Corrupt and he creates gems and destroys water gems based on intensity. So it's a really good card to have. And then we have Dragon Dancer. This is a card that I got from the collection. We'll create 2 Power Gem 3s, so I'm keeping her. I'm actually going to change this to my original card. I swapped them out when I was doing some testing here. But you can see what I'm going to put in here is a really good card that would actually create Fire Gems, and I did talk about it in the last event as well, last episode as well. So let's go ahead and use this. I'm running all Corrupt Relics because we've had a long stream of Corrupt Heroes, so I got a good set of corrupt Relics here, so that's good. So let's go ahead and play this out. So the way you want to do this is with this particular team with this health, I can only last 3 hits total, and so that turns out to be 6 turns altogether. And so during this time, I'm hoping that I don't get hit by Fear and I can build out my Fire Gems as much as possible so that I could, try to increase more Power Gems if I can. So good. The first one is dispelled. And let's go ahead and see if I can get more red gems to drop. If not, what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and activate the battle skill here. And what I'll do is I'm going to line up the Fire Gems close to each other. And okay, so you saw that I didn't actually dispel Fear that time, but luckily for me, the 2 heroes that had been impacted already had used up their skills. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use up the Sun Dancer, and I'm going to use Vena, and I'm going to use Hulu and let's go ahead and swap the power gems, and let's see how much damage we are able to deal there. So 500 million, about a little over 1.2 billion there. And that wasn't actually very good because I wasn't able to use everybody's skill. I could have done a lot more damage if I had some more red gems, but I was able to deal, about 1.2 there. I had done some testing. I was able to deal at least 2 billion with that team. So it's very viable, very useful for a guild boss. All right. Now let's go ahead and try against another one using another team here. So that is using this team. And if you had Manvils though, I would definitely replace, well, I don't think many people will have this card, so you can replace this card with Manvils. And also, if you have 2 of them, you could also replace Jarvis, or you can replace Cecilia. Now, having multiple cards in the deck will only help you with dispelling fear. So, try out and see if that works for you. Another deck that I think is actually usable is the Thula deck. So let's go ahead and run this deck here against the boss. So Thula, if you remember from last time I did this, I feature her. You need to have 3 attacks. You need to make sure that she has 3 attacks, and on her 3rd attack is when you would activate all of her battle skills to create multiple power gems. So what you want to do is you want to try to save some space for your on your board so that you can actually do some attacks. And again, I'm gonna hope that I actually will dispel fear. So we're now we've now done 2 attacks. Oh, okay, so I guess in this particular boss, it doesn't actually cast fear. I had remembered it wrong. I thought all guild bosses cast fear. So in this case, it casts weaken. So that's good for us, although I could have brought in another Domi to really help out there. So it's important to really make sure that you pay attention to the boss's skills as well. And what I haven't been doing is I haven't been paying attention to whether or not Thula's Storm has been activated. So let's make sure that we do that. So that was another attack there. I think maybe I think this may be the 3rd attack. So let's see. No, the next attack is going to be the 3rd attack there. So okay, so let's go ahead and do one more match. And with 1.15 seconds, let's make sure that we go ahead and activate all the skills. Okay, so now Thula will create 3 power gems, and then Domi will have hopefully enough intensity to fill the board, which it can. And let's see how much damage we're able to do. Now we have our damage reduced by half, but you can see that Domi still dealt over 2 billion damage right there. So he's going to be your main damage dealer against, I guess, against that particular boss. I didn't actually need a card. So now let's see. This is an Inferno. Is it true for all Infernos? I still can't tell. So I guess it looks like the Inferno bosses will cast Weaken and the non-Inferno bosses cast Fear. I don't want to say that's always a rule of thumb, so make sure that you do a, you just check it beforehand. And we have a couple of Infernos here. I do want to make sure I attack this before my guildmate takes them out. We're going to go ahead and take a look at one more deck here. One more deck that is actually surprisingly useful. And given that we are against a card, let's see, do we have another boss that, they're all infernal, but let's go ahead and use against Dojin then. So we're definitely not going to be able to deal enough damage, but this is the deck I wanted to show you. So I'm going to replace this card actually. I want to make sure that I don't. So remember I mentioned that you want to bring in a Warden to increase your chance of dispelling. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in 4 Orsangs and one Warden to actually dispel fear for me, and then we can see how well a full commander deck is going to work. I already featured this kind of deck in my last episode. So, this card is really, really useful and surprisingly powerful. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you can do 3 matches. And once you do 3 matches, you can then use the skill for Orsang. And now what's nice is Bone Collector is a light card that also creates gems. So in this case, you can see I'm using it to my advantage to create some gems there. So I'm creating 4 power gems. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use my battle skill right away because I want to take time to actually let my relic do the work for me and create more power gems on the board for me. I don't want to rush it. I want to make sure that I can build as many power gems as I can before I activate all of my skills because that's going to maximize my damage. And so as much as I can, what I want to do is I want to, not use up all of the power gems there, and I still have enough health to not worry about it. And I think now I should have enough to go ahead and activate everything. So you can see I have, I'm going to create 12 of these, and let's go ahead and use all of them and see how much damage we can deal here. Now, I think there's another way to play it. So this was close to, I think, another billion as well. So this is a billion damage with just the commander cards. I could have probably not waited and not, bother to try and get so many power gems, but that's just how I like to play. I wanted to see how much I can do in one big hit. But you can probably just kind of continuously do shots there. And so those are the 3 teams there that I found, workable. I mean, I have other decks I can use. It's kind of sad that I can't use a full team here, but I do have my Flamma deck that I'm going to use. And for an Eternal Boss, you can also use this deck. But it takes about 10 minutes to hit, so I'm not going to showcase this here. And I also tried running the full Water Halloween deck. It's still available, it's still usable, but I've already shown this before and not everybody has this deck, so I'm not going to bother in this particular episode. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show for the gameplay itself. There's a couple of things I also wanted to talk about. Number one, I'm not sure if I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but another thing I wanted to talk about is the announcement that was made regarding the counter skill bug fix. So you can read the text here. It is a pretty long, not long, but it's just a lot of text block in here. And so instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain this in using the cards that we have. So when you play, in the Guild versus Guild, what we do is we always bring in a warden that can dispel dispel something like alacrity, for example. And most recently, we have, we have also flatline dispel. But let's go ahead with, alacrity, because I think a lot of people still run this. And so you can see Cataclysm dispels alacrity, and it dispels it at level 9. Against a warden in Guild vs. Guild, which is also level 9, it's supposed to have a 60% dispel rate. You've probably noticed that it's closer to about 100%. Well, the reason for that is because if you take a look at the if you look at the wardens that actually cast alacrity, so let's go ahead and change this to show event warden, and let's look at, I don't actually use alacrity, so I don't remember, is it Vulcan's Revenge, I think? So Vulcan's Revenge will actually cast alacrity, and you can see that it can apply the debuff up to 5 heroes. And so it could go from 1 to 5, and there was a bug in the system before where if you have a card that can dispel that can dispel alacrity, for example, for every hero that gets affected by the debuff, it will actually go and try to dispel. Okay, so remember, it's supposed to be 60% dispel rate, but let's say alacrity got cast on all 5 of your all 5 members of your team. It's actually going to try to dispel 5 times instead of just the 1 time. And because you're dispelling 5 times with this 60% chance, it bumps your success rate up to over 90%. So what they're doing is they're changing it so that regardless of how many heroes actually get impacted by your debuff, the single card that you bring in will still just activate once. Now, if you brought in multiple cards to dispel, that will still work fine because every card will try to activate once. It was just that the way this was working, if Alacrity was a cast on 5, another way to think about it, it's almost as if you brought 5 cards that dispelled Alacrity, and that's why you're pretty much seeing 100% success rate. So with this change, you're going to see a lot less guarantees of the dispel happening, so that is going to impact your attack team. So it's very important to think about that. Make sure you practice against it, and this is where I would say if you have multiple cards that dispel something that you have a hard time against, now's the time to start thinking about changing your guild versus guild team to bring those in. And I'll probably have a updated episode to talk about that in more detail. I just thought that this update is important enough for me to talk about it here, so that you don't so that people have a chance to prepare for it in the next guild versus guild fight. And before I sign off, one last thing I wanted to say is I just wanted to actually give a shout out and say thanks to the network team, specifically Nicole. If you actually have the network app, you'll see what I'm talking about. So in the app here, you can see that there is a dashboard of videos. There's some actually really good videos, some really fun ones. Art Talk is a really good one. And you can also see some devs talking about some of the updates here. But this is where they also put one of my videos, which is from my last video, the preview for the deck, in here as well, so that it actually links to my video. So if you have not seen the app or you have seen the app, go check it out, take a look, and I just want to say thanks again, and thanks for all of your support so far. Thanks to the to all the viewers and all of you giving me really good feedback, really good comments to help me with the content. So so please let me know, continue to let me know how this video works for you, how it's helped you, if there's anything you'd like to see more of. I have some feedback I've gotten. I'm going through them right now, and I'm compiling ideas for the next episodes as well. So thanks for watching, and thanks for your time, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.